Most of us probably avoid certain foods because of the way they taste. There are many foods on the market that will taste great, but still contain ingredients that are potentially hazardous to your health.
Behind the scrumptious-looking food we consume every day, there lies a sinister truth. The food industry is not what you think it is. Using disgusting ingredients and questionable preparation methods, these food companies don't want us to find out their dirty secrets. From delicious packs of instant ramen to delicacies like farmed shrimp, you will never eat these things after knowing how they're made. Ice cream in the stores. Starting off with every woman's favorite comfort food, ice cream. It is something we all love, right? It can be soft or hard, served in a cone or a cup, and even blended into a delicious milkshake. But what if we told you that some store-bought ice creams have some questionable ingredients? Many ice cream brands add chemicals that might not be good for us, and some of these ingredients aren't even real food. For instance, butyraldehyde comes from butane, the same stuff used in making plastic. It's added to ice cream to give it flavor, but would you want to eat something plastic? Then we have amyl acetate, also known as banana oil, which gives the ice cream a fruity taste. But guess what? It's used in paint manufacturing and to make penicillin. Another ingredient is diethyl glycol, which is used to make polyester. Some companies use it in ice cream instead of eggs because it's cheaper, but this chemical was once found in unsafe toothpaste that could make you sick. That sounds scary, right? Next up is aldehyde C17, which is used in making dyes and rubber, and also added for flavor. Do we really want rubber and dye in our ice cream? Then there's piperonal, a cheap replacement for vanilla. While it comes from the vanilla bean, it can irritate your skin and is even used to kill lice. We also have ethyl acetate, which gives a pineapple flavor, but is also used in making ink and coatings. Breathing in too much of this stuff can harm our liver, lungs, and heart. Other ingredients include monoglycerides, diglycerides, and triglycerides. These can turn into unhealthy trans fats when processed at high temperatures. And guess what? Some companies change serving sizes so they don't have to say there are trans fats on the label. Disodium phosphate is another tricky ingredient. Not much is known about it, but it's marked as slightly hazardous. Then we have benzyl acetate, which is found in products like detergents and plastic solvents. Research proved it could cause tumors in animals. That's definitely not what we expect in ice cream. Propylene glycol is a liquid that keeps food from drying out, but is also found in paints and plastics. It can hurt our kidneys, skin, and respiratory system. In ice cream, it helps maintain moisture. But do we want chemicals like that in a treat? Next is sodium benzoate, which can harm our cells and weaken our immune system. If mixed with vitamin C, it can turn into benzene, which is linked to cancer. Polysorbate 80 helps ice cream stay solid longer, but this chemical may lead to allergies and other health issues like heart problems. Potassium sorbate makes ice cream last longer, but too much can cause stomach problems. Modified cornstarch makes ice cream smoother, but it's treated with acids that can make it harder to digest. Finally, we have soy lecithin, which is often made from genetically modified soybeans and can cause digestive problems and allergies. After learning about all these strange ingredients, it's hard to believe they're in something as simple and yummy as ice cream. Maybe next time, we'll think a little harder about what's really in our favorite dessert, non-dairy creamer. Just like ice cream, this next item is a household staple and is consumed on a daily basis by unsuspecting people who are unaware of how bad it is for their health. While many people drink their coffee black, others wouldn't dream of enjoying their morning cup of joe without the addition of milk or creamer of some sort. Back in the day, adding milk cream used to be just a splash of raw goodness derived from a dairy cow. It looks like cream, and we put it in coffee, but it is non-dairy. That should be a huge red flag, but for some reason, millions of people are using this stuff every day. We can't think of a product worse than this. Even bacteria and mold hate non-dairy creamer, and for good reason. It contains chemicals like carrageenan, a potential carcinogen, and a very controversial ingredient. Another red flag is the artificial flavors and emulsifiers that are an established health hazard. Not only are they using soybean oil to produce non-dairy creamers, but they are also using cottonseed oil, one of the most highly refined and worst oils for human consumption. Cottonseed crops are known for the use of high levels of pesticides, and this cheap oil has no business in our food supply. farmed shrimp. Moving now from a creamy treats to something a little more savory and expensive, let's talk about shrimp. Shrimp may be delicious, but have you ever wondered what's behind that buttery taste? Shrimp is one of the tastiest treats around, often served hot with a little butter or sauce. But when we eat shrimp, especially the imported kind, we might not know the story behind it. Surprisingly, most shrimp in the United States is brought in from farms in other countries like Southeast Asia and Central America. And there are some big issues with these farm-raised shrimp. Things that impact the environment, local communities, and even us. Most shrimp farms are built in areas that used to be mangrove forests. These mangroves, with their tall roots reaching into the water, do more than just look pretty. They play a big role in keeping our planet healthy by storing carbon, which helps balance the Earth's atmosphere. Mangroves soak up carbon dioxide from the air and trap it in their roots and soil, storing it for hundreds or even thousands of years. But to make room for shrimp ponds, many of these mangroves are cut down. When they're destroyed, all that stored carbon gets released back into the air, which can harm our climate. In fact, producing just 1 pound of shrimp from these cleared areas releases as much carbon as 10 pounds of beef from land cleared in the Amazon rainforest, making shrimp farming in these areas a very high pollution process. Local people in these regions have relied on mangrove forests for food, firewood, and income for generations. Mangroves are also nurseries for young fish, which grow up to be valuable for fishing communities. But when big shrimp farms come in, they often block local fishers from these resources and leave the waters polluted. People who rely on the sea for their food and livelihoods often find themselves with fewer resources and may be forced to leave their homes. And sadly, some people who have protested shrimp farms or tried to protect these waters have faced violence. In countries like Bangladesh and Guatemala, there have even been reports of murder connected to shrimp farming protests. Thailand, one of the world's biggest shrimp exporters, faces another serious issue: human trafficking. Some shrimp peeling plants in Thailand have been linked to forced labor, where people are tricked or forced into working long, painful hours with incredibly low pay. Many of these workers are migrants from neighboring countries who thought they were getting regular jobs, only to find themselves trapped. There have been investigations showing that some shrimp farms and processing plants kept people locked up for days or even years, forcing them to work in terrible conditions. In another terrible part of the industry, some workers are even taken against their will onto fishing boats, where they are forced to work long hours with very little food and water. These boats, often called ghost ships, catch fish to make food for farmed shrimp. Some workers are treated so poorly that they never make it home. Caviar. Another seafood product that makes its way to luxury dining through cruel practices and animal abuse is caviar. Caviar, a symbol of culinary luxury, has a high cost in addition to its expensive price. For the first time, animal justice is exposing the terrible suffering faced by fish that have their eggs ripped out and sold as a delicacy. An animal justice whistleblower worked at Northern Divine Aqua Farms, a caviar farm on British Columbia's Sunshine Coast that offers certified organic and sustainable white sturgeon caviar, as well as fish eggs, or roe, from coho salmons. They used a covert camera to record rampant animal suffering and horrific behavior. Caviar has been criticized and even outlawed in certain countries due to its devastating impact on wild sturgeons, the world's most endangered species group. Sturgeons are intelligent and complex fishes that have lived on this planet for over 200 million years. They can grow to be 18 feet long and weigh more than 1,200 pounds. Sturgeon engage in social learning behaviors, have an impressive spatial memory, and are known to travel thousands of kilometers to spawn. To track the sturgeons, a thick needle is used to inject a microchip toward the back of their heads. The sturgeons appear to writhe in anguish as it is injected. Workers wrangle 4 to 5 foot long sturgeons onto a stretcher, stab them in the abdomen, insert a tube, and suck out the fish eggs to determine whether they are ready for sale as caviar. This surgery is terrible for the fish, as it is carried out without the use of any obvious medications. If the eggs are not ripe, the fish are thrown back into the pool. Many sturgeons have obvious scars from having to face this excruciating ordeal repeatedly throughout their lives. Leading up to when the fish are killed for their eggs, They are intentionally starved for weeks to improve the taste. This cruel practice is known as staging. Sturgeons are killed with a captive bolt gun, the same pistol-like tool used to kill pigs, cows, and other larger animals on farms. Veal. Believe it or not, the seafood industry isn't the only one violating animal rights and manufacturing luxury meats by causing poor animals immense pain. The veal industry is no different. Veal, which is regarded as a delicacy in some quarters, is one of the cruelest meats available. Male calves are more commonly slaughtered for veal than females. The age of calves butchered for veal spans from birth to 24 weeks. Cow mothers carry their offspring for 9 months, just as humans do. If allowed, calves will nurse until they are about 10 months old. Imagine all that bonding time. And like human kids, each calf has a distinct personality. These wonderful animals build rapid bonds with one another, which can begin in childhood and last a lifetime. Unfortunately, calves raised for veal never have the opportunity to bond with their mothers, play in the grass, or make friends with other calves. In North America, calves are generally sold for veal in the first weeks of life. This means that fragile newborns are not only wrenched from their mother's sides, but crammed into transport trucks and driven off to veal farms. Calves lack access to milk during transport, which severely harms their well-being. The greater the distance babies travel, the higher their mortality rate. Animal Equality's 1999 study discovered that calves are routinely taken from their moms within 30 minutes after birth. The calves, still wet and shivering, waited for transport while their moms screamed loudly. During the investigation, a driver took a weakened calf from the truck and left it to languish for days. Traditionally, veal calves were kept in confined boxes, often tethered or shackled, and were unable to socialize with other animals. Many veal companies claim to have eliminated inhumane crates, but such assertions are not always credible. Animal Recovery Mission's 2019 inquiry into Midwest veal discovered that calves were still held in crates, despite the company's claims to the contrary. About 15% of U.S. veal comes from bob veal calves. These are newborns sent directly to slaughter, some with their umbilical cords still attached. Bob veal often winds up in hot dogs and sandwich meats. Most calves at veal farms become special-fed veal. Confined in small indoor pens, these babies are fed formula until the day they're killed, at just 18 to 20 weeks old. Foie gras. After fish and cattle are exploited and brutalized, you'd expect this sinister industry would spare the birds but think again, especially when you're devouring the delicious foie gras. Foie gras, a French delicacy, is essentially a diseased liver. Foie gras is the fatty liver of a duck or goose that has been force-fed until the organ develops hepatic steatosis. These bloated, sick organs are subsequently devoured whole or mashed into pâtés, mousses, or parfaits. Does that sound appetizing? There are 2 species of birds that are unfortunate enough to be picked for foie gras manufacturing. The industry primarily targets ducks, specifically the Moulard hybrid, Barbary, and Muscovy varieties. Geese are also used and tortured for foie gras production, with varieties such as the Landes geese falling prey to this terrible industry. Even in the more ethical scenario, sensitive smart birds are denied their natural flying and traveling instincts, their lives, and their birthright to the skies. But the vast majority of foie gras farms are far more terrifying. Ducks and geese have 2 periods in their lives on typical foie gras farms: pre-feeding and feeding. Birds enter the world unaware that their short life will be filled with misery. For many, life is tragically cut short. Because only male ducks' livers are needed, and males can gain more weight than females, all female babies are slaughtered within hours of birth, often by being cruelly crushed up alive. During the pre-fattening stage, the birds are compelled to spend longer and longer periods of time inside the barn as they are gradually introduced to their new corn-based diet over the course of 9 to 13 weeks. Confinement is terrible for any animal, but the worst part of gavage is the tubes. Workers grasp the necks of the birds one by one and force either a rubber or metal tube down their unwilling throats to pump the food in, all to fatten their livers as quickly as possible. Sometimes the feeding apparatus is equipped with a pneumatic pump that pushes the food down with compressed air and swift but painful efficiency. Confinement is terrible for any animal, but the worst part of gavage is the tubes. Workers grasp the necks of the birds one by one and force either a rubber or metal tube down their unwilling throats to pump the food in, all to fatten their livers as quickly as possible. Sometimes the feeding apparatus is equipped with a pneumatic pump that pushes the food down with compressed air and swift but painful efficiency. This forced feeding phase lasts around 2 weeks. Every day, twice a day, their beaks are forced open and their stomachs are pumped full to the point of bursting. Processed cheese. Unlike the horrifying seafood and meat industry products, this processed food isn't exploiting labor and practicing animal cruelty. However, for your health, it may not be the best thing. You might have heard people say processed cheese when talking about American cheese slices or those gooey cheese sauces on nachos. But what exactly is processed cheese? Is it the same as the real stuff, or is it just a cheaper version? Here's where things get interesting. First, processed cheese isn't 100% cheese. Usually it's about half cheese, though this can change a little. So what's the other stuff? Well, processed cheese is made with real cheese plus a mix of other ingredients. Some things added include salt, food coloring, preservatives, extra dairy, or things that help the cheese stay smooth. These ingredients are melted together with pasteurized cheese and then turned into slices, spreads, sauces, or even squeezable cheese. By the time this process is done, the cheese tastes and feels different. But why add these extra ingredients? They make the cheese creamier and give it a flavor that's the same every time you eat it. Also, processed cheese melts really well. It melts into smooth, stretchy cheese pulls without getting oily or clumping up. That's why processed cheese looks so delicious on things like grilled cheese sandwiches or burgers. Another big reason for adding these ingredients is so that the cheese lasts longer. The preservatives in processed cheese keep it fresh for a long time. Some types don't even need to be refrigerated, which means you can store them at room temperature without worrying they'll go bad. Because processed cheese can last so long, stores don't have to keep it in the fridge or be as careful with it as they do with real cheese. It's cheaper and easier to make, sell, and buy, which means everyone saves money. So, does this mean processed cheese is bad for us? Not really. Processed cheese has a special place in our lives. Processed cheese is mainly used in fast foods, where it is served as toppings for several dishes. It can lead to increased weight and obesity if consumed regularly, due to the high amounts of calories. Also, the high amount of salt in processed cheese can contribute to high blood pressure. Breakfast cereal. If you think processed cheese would shave off a few years from your life, wait till you find out how unhealthy your daily breakfast cereal is. Eating a healthy breakfast is super important for feeling good and having energy all day long. In fact, a study from 2018 found something surprising. Eating a bad breakfast is worse for you than not eating breakfast at all. So, what does this mean for your morning meal? Cereal is a breakfast favorite for many, but it can actually be one of the worst choices you can make in the morning. Even though it tastes great, most cereals are full of added sugar and have fewer nutrients that help keep you strong and healthy. Dr. Monique Tello, who writes for Harvard Health Publishing, says that foods like cereal, muffins, and bagels can hurt your blood sugar and insulin levels. This means that when you eat sugary cereal, your body quickly stores that sugar as fat instead of using it for energy. One of the biggest problems with cereal is how much sugar it has. For example, in a serving of frosted mini wheats, you get about 51 grams of carbohydrates and 12 grams of sugar. Honey Nut Cheerios has around 22 grams of carbohydrates and 9 grams of sugar in just 3/4 of a cup. That doesn't seem too bad, right? But wait, when you pour milk on top, that adds another 13 grams of sugar. And let's be honest, most of us pour more than 3/4 of a cup, which means we're eating even more sugar than we think. Too much sugar can cause problems like weight gain and even increase the risk of diabetes. But it doesn't stop there. Studies show that eating sugary cereals in the morning can make you feel tired and make you crave more sugary foods throughout the day. You might think that sweet pastries, pancakes, or sugary cereal will fill you up, but they can actually make you hungrier. Eating a breakfast high in sugar makes your body store it as fat very quickly. This means you might feel tired and want to eat more sugary snacks later on. Instant ramen noodles. While we're on the subject of quick meals, let's take a look at another popular food choice that might not be as healthy as it seems: instant ramen noodles. They are a popular and convenient food choice for many people around the world, especially for those on a budget or those who are short on time. These noodles are inexpensive and can be prepared quickly, often taking just a few minutes to cook, which is why they are a staple in college dorms and busy households. They are made from wheat flour and contain various vegetable oils and flavorings. The noodles are pre-cooked through steaming, then air-dried or fried to reduce cooking time, allowing consumers to prepare them with hot water or in the microwave easily. Although they might be a quick meal, their nutritional value deserves closer inspection. For example, a serving of chicken-flavored instant ramen noodles contains around 188 calories, 27 grams of carbohydrates, 7 grams of fat, 5 grams of protein, 1 gram of fiber, and a whopping 891 milligrams of sodium. While they do provide some nutrients like iron and B vitamins, they lack many essential vitamins and minerals such as protein, fiber, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin B12, calcium, magnesium, and potassium. They are loaded with sodium, which is essential for the body but can be harmful in excess. High sodium intake from processed foods, including ramen noodles, can lead to health problems like heart disease and stomach cancer. In fact, a single flavor packet of instant ramen can contain up to 1,060 milligrams of sodium, which is 88% of the World Health Organization's recommended daily limit of 2 grams. Relying on instant ramen noodles as a meal option can make it challenging to maintain a healthy sodium intake, especially since many people consume them multiple times a day. This high sodium content can lead to serious health issues, especially for individuals who are more sensitive to salt, increasing their risk of high blood pressure, heart problems, and kidney issues. Besides high sodium, instant ramen noodles often contain additives like tertiary butyl hydroquinone and monosodium glutamate, which are used to enhance flavor and prolong shelf life. Tertiary butyl hydroquinone is a common preservative found in many processed foods, and while it is considered safe in small amounts, long-term exposure has been linked to various health problems in animal studies. Similarly, monosodium glutamate, a flavor enhancer, may cause adverse reactions in some people, including headaches, nausea, and high blood pressure. Glue in nuggets and deli meats. Ramen might be an unhealthy food choice, but at least we know all the ingredients that go into its production. This next item is being used by the food industry to con the consumers. While we all love ourselves some big juicy steaks, what we don't know is that our steak is often just a bunch of scrap meat pieces glued together and made to look like a genuine prime cut. Let us introduce you to transglutaminase. Popularly known as nature's biological glue, this substance is naturally found in animals, humans, and plants. It can be extracted or produced artificially by bacteria in bioreactors. But why does the food industry need it? Well, it links proteins together through a chemical reaction and therefore is used in binding pieces of meat together almost seamlessly. The binding process may take between 4 to 24 hours, which is pretty quick and efficient. While the use of meat glue is legal and regulated, there are concerns about its potential health risks and misleading practices. One example of the use of meat glue in the food industry is in the production of chicken nuggets. Ground chicken meat is mixed with other ingredients, such as starch and flavorings, and then formed into the shape of a nugget. Transglutaminase is then added to bind the meat together, creating a more solid and uniform product. Another example is in the production of ham and other deli meats, where small pieces of meat are glued together to create a larger cut. Some studies have suggested that transglutaminase may have adverse health effects in some individuals, such as triggering an inflammatory response in the intestines. Another concern is the misleading practices associated with the use of meat glue. Consumers may not be aware that the meat they are consuming has been glued together from smaller pieces, which can make it difficult to determine the true origin and quality of the meat product. White bread. Another surprisingly unhealthy staple in all our kitchens is packaged bread. White packaged bread might be unhealthy due to the highly processed wheat and chemicals it contains. Consuming an excessive amount of white bread can lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes. However, buying bread with whole as the first component does not ensure a healthy product. This is merely the first step. Even whole grain bread may include 20 or more ingredients, including preservatives, extra salt, and sugar. Not all of these promote healthy health. Preservatives may help bread last longer, but fresh bread with less preservatives may be stored in the refrigerator or freezer to keep it fresh. Many breads include additional sugars or sugar replacements. Examples include sucrose, glucose, and fructose. Manufacturers typically order an ingredient list according to the weight of ingredients in the product. Ingredients that appear near the top of the list will be present in relatively high proportions. Supermarket bread contains emulsifiers, which have been linked with health problems, including a potentially increased risk of developing some cancers. Besides, the most important issue might not be whether the bread is classed as ultra-processed or not. The levels of salt in shop-bought bread could be more of a problem. Salt is used to even out how bread rises and gives a consistent texture. However, the amount of salt in different brands of bread can vary from a teaspoon per loaf to 4 teaspoons per loaf, which is a lot. Sodas. Just like white bread, sugary drinks, including soda, are also loaded with additives, carbs, and preservatives. They have little to no nutritional value and can cause many health problems, such as weight gain, diabetes, and liver issues. When you drink these sugary beverages, you often consume more calories without feeling full. For example, people who drink soda may eat 17% more calories than before. When you consume too much sugar, your liver gets overwhelmed and starts turning sugar into fat. This can lead to a serious condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Sugary drinks, especially those with high fructose, can also make it easier to gain weight, particularly around your belly, which is linked to diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Studies show that just 1 can of sugary soda each day can raise your chances of developing diabetes. Moreover, sugary drinks have no vitamins or minerals. They only provide sugar and empty calories. They can also harm your teeth because the sugar feeds bad bacteria, leading to tooth decay. Drinking a lot of soda can even lead to other serious health issues like gout and increase the risk of certain cancers. In short, sugary drinks are unhealthy and should be avoided if you want to stay healthy and feel good. It's much better to drink water or unsweetened drinks instead. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.